Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown. So Seaman had a rush at the theater, man. Tried to get in as many movies from 2019 that had come out before we got to the end of the new year. And this was one that I was very, very excited to go see right away. One, because when the trailer dropped and you saw Charlize Theron, you were like, where'd Charlize go? And then just, it's one of those movies where, like, there have been few biographical films that have been set in a time where I was an adult, and this was something that only happened a few years ago. So it's a very timely piece, but a very important piece, and a very well done piece. I really, really dug this one. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, man? Take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into Bombshell. That's right, man. The story about how Roger Ailes, like the head of Fox, and the reason Fox News exists, got dragged in and kind of began the Me Too movement with the sexual harassment allegations that were leveled by Gretchen Carlson, later supported by Megyn Kelly and a whole slew of other women that had worked at Fox, that eventually led to the removal of one of the biggest television titans of all time, Mr. Roger Ailes. And what's interesting here is this is a movie, like I said, I was alive for. I remember when this happened, but I don't remember all the details. I'm not a huge news person, if you couldn't tell that. And watching the movie just kind of revealed things that, like, I was like, wow, that's how that went down. Like how Gretchen Carlson gets everything she wants to get accomplished with trying to take down Roger Ailes. It's mind-blowingly impressive when you see what she did, how much foresight she had to have, how much thought had to go into trying to take down a media mogul that had so much power you think it wouldn't even be possible. And now here we are 3 years later, and it wasn't just Roger Ailes, right? This was something that was rampant all across Hollywood and television and just a culture that, now with the start here has revealed lots of ugly truths about some people, and has also opened the eyes of the world to try to change these type of things. And I have to say, man, I was really impressed with Jay Roach. Now, here is another former comedy director. I mean, this is the guy who brought us Austin Powers, Meet the Parents, who's kind of slipped into, a more dramatic experience, very similar to Todd Phillips, although Todd Phillips went way, way, way darker. And we saw this with Roach back in 2015 when he did Trumbo, which was pretty solid. But this right here, man, like, here's a guy who came from comedy that's like, hey, I could do hardcore drama, man. Not just drama, but stuff that is recent. It's very rare that you see anything happen and then there be a movie about it like 3 years later. But it's such an important piece about the time, and it is super timely. And the thing I liked the most about the way Roach handled this movie with his writer here, Charles Randolph, is the way they kind of lead you into the story and how they show Roger Ailes interacting with women, specifically Megyn Kelly at the beginning, and then you see him interact with a couple other women. And you can sit there, where you could see Roger Ailes saying that wasn't what was going on there. Like, you see a very, very professional relationship with him and Megyn Kelly at the beginning of this movie. You do see him talk to a couple of the younger, prettier girls that are trying to come up in Fox News. And, he's like, hey, stand up, give me a twirl. But the way he talks to them is in a way where it's like, yeah, well, I need to make sure you have good legs because that's how television works. And you can see all the excuses that he did throw out and would have thrown out given this situation. And starting the movie there leads into a scene with Margot Robbie's character, Kayla Pospisil, and her first interaction with Ailes. Very similar to what we see at the beginning of the movie. And then he takes it a step further and a step further and a step further, where now you're in territory of clear-cut sexual harassment that is so uncomfortable to watch. That first scene with Margot Robbie, you sit there and your skin crawls. One, because John Lithgow's performance as Roger Ailes, and we'll talk about that, is very, very good. And when he's got all the makeup and stuff on and the face he's making as, the scene is going on, you're just like, oh, that is a sick, dirty man. And from that point on, you keep running and you just see how it gets worse and worse and worse. And when Megyn Kelly finally steps up and gets involved in other people coming forward, and this thing blows up and eventually leads to the end of Roger Ailes' time at Fox, is uncomfortable to watch, but it is a progression that it just gets worse and worse. And you're like, yeah, this is a guy that was a bad person. And the things he did were disgusting and deplorable. And the movie really makes you see, like, yeah, if someone says this because this is what they're doing, and it's almost like you could tell Ailes knew that, like, to protect himself, not every girl could he push it that far. You had to keep a limit, so there'd be some women who'd be like, well, yeah, like, he'd ask to see my legs or stuff like that, but, that's how TV worked. To the people where he was actually sexually harassing them. I thought that was just a brilliant way to approach the movie and bring you in, because it's a story where we know what happened. So to feel it get worse and worse and more dirty and disgusting, I think is just so effective. And then on top of that, you just have unbelievable performances from your cast here. Like I said, Charlize Theron, she doesn't exist in this movie. It's just Megyn Kelly. It's a transformation that's absolutely insane with very, very little makeup. I have a feeling that there was some sort of nose prosthetic going on. But outside of that, I mean, it doesn't look like there's, this big amount of makeup and, practical effect type stuff like you have for Lithgow's character with her. And then the performance, I mean, the minute she opens her mouth and starts talking, you're like, yeah, no, Charlize Theron is gone. Like, that is Megyn Kelly, and she's phenomenal. And being the main person that kind of takes us through the story, it's interesting to watch it from her perspective, and how it all works, and the things that went into what kept her from saying things, and how you had to kind of play the game to get where Megyn Kelly was, even though you knew that, like, you probably should have pushed harder, said more. I think she mentions that, like, she had filed a complaint early on, but then, like, from there was just kind of like a line that had been established that, like, her and Ailes had a very professional relationship that you see at the beginning of the movie. All the more reason when you get to what actually was going on there and what had happened to her. It's so impactful. And it's a transformative performance from Theron. I really, really loved her, and she carries this movie start to finish. And Nicole Kidman in there, as it says, Gretchen Carlson, smaller in role, but the impact and some of the moments that Gretchen has throughout the movie, and seeing how she had to tackle going about this to succeed. And it started with the fact that, like, she was starting to get pushed back and back because of her looks and things of that nature. And they were dropping her into worse spots. And it was only a matter of time before she was going to lose her job. And knowing the things that she knew, there was so much foresight and thought that went into her plan. Because if you're going to take down a media mogul with the amount of power that Roger Ailes had back then, it would take more than just making an accusation. And when you see it play out, another thing, the way, they hold back on everything that Gretchen's got going on and kind of let it play out the way it did in real life, that's just so effective. That it was to watch it play out the way it did, it one, works in the movie, but also, like I said, worked in real life. Like, the things she did were smart. It's like, well, why did you wait to do this? Because that was the only way I could have done that. And Nicole Kidman plays it wonderfully. And then we have Margot Robbie rounding out our three big female leads in this movie. And what I like about her character, Kayla Pospisil, is, super attractive woman. And the approach to, like, what Ailes was doing when he meets her, you're like, oh, he sees someone that's really good looking, that'll work really well on TV. It'll draw eyes. It'll get people to pay attention to the news. It's set up that way where it's like, oh, here's this pretty face that we're going to put out there. But she gets moments where, like, she kind of lays out like, oh, I think I should be moving up or getting to here. Because I know what I'm doing. I'm really smart. They give her moments where she's breaking down. You're like, this is more than just a pretty face. Like, and she understands how to play the game correctly to kind of move herself forward, that when you start to watch all the stuff going on with Ailes and you get that first disgusting scene, she's got two of the most impactful scenes in the whole movie. That first scene with Ailes, and then later on she has a phone call with Kate McKinnon's character, who's also fantastic in the film. That is so emotionally impactful. Like I said, it's the moment of the movie. Like, Charlize might carry this bad boy, but Margot Robbie is the one that punches you square in the chest the hardest. And those two scenes are just delivered so well, where it's like, especially coming out of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where she really wasn't used for very much at all, other than just to be like a name in the movie to play this character, but she kind of felt sidelined. Here's similar situation, smaller role, but you don't feel like she's sidelined. She reminds you like how good of an actor she is. And like I said, those two scenes are the most impactful in the movie, and they're delivered by an absolutely brilliant actor. And the rest of the cast around these three women is really, really solid. Like I said, John Lithgow playing Roger Ailes. I love Lithgow. Fantastic performance, because you are just creeped out and disgusted with this guy all the time, and everything he does, to the subtle things. Like I said, like it seemed like he knew that at some point what he was doing could be an issue. So you would see these interactions with some of the women at the beginning that weren't that bad, to then turn it, and the way Lithgow turns in the performance, you do go from seeing, hey, here's a media mogul who started back in the day, this is how things worked, he's just an old, crotchety old man stuck in his ways, to a perverted, disgusting man. Like the facial expressions. Like I said, that scene with Margot Robbie, your skin crawls, and a lot of that is because of the performance that Lithgow is giving, and I thought he just absolutely nailed it there. As I said, Kate McKinnon pops up in this thing. She's really, really good. Small role that's connected directly to Margot Robbie's character, Kayla. I really enjoyed watching their relationship. There was one element of their relationship I wish they would have just taken like another step and been like, let's just go there to a degree. It doesn't have to be over the top or anything like that, but like they kind of played around with like, this is what was going on, without kind of showing the full side of it, I guess. I don't want to spoil it, but their relationship in the movie is one that's very, very strong. And watching McKinnon on screen with, these A-listers, she holds her own rock solid, and she brings some of that comedy that she's so good for. And same here, like Jay Roach, you're taking on very, very, tough subject matter, but he gives you moments where you have to break that tension and kind of get a laugh here or enjoy a moment there. And Kate McKinnon has a lot of those moments. So I really, really enjoyed her. And then, like I said, there's just a whole slew of people who pop up in this movie. Allison Janney, she's fantastic, man. She is, I believe, Ailes' lawyer. Susan Estrich, fantastic, man. Like the minute she opens her mouth, you're like, oh, Janney is having a fun time playing this role. I really enjoyed any time she popped up. You got Malcolm McDowell in there as Rupert Murdoch for a little bit. He's great. And to see that interaction with him and Lithgow on screen too, old school actors giving you top end stuff, and a very uncomfortable like conversation as far as like what's going on at that point in time in the movie, or at least uncomfortable for Ailes. I thought he really did a great job. I'm from Connie Britton to Liv Houston. Everybody who shows up in this movie, I think, does a really good job. They all add a little bit. And not just, the other thing that I enjoyed about the movie wasn't just the way they approached, going about this story and kind of telling this, but also giving you the inside of what was going on at Fox News and how that culture and business worked. The way the movie opens, I really, really enjoyed. And like I said, kind of getting to see the inner workings of the news system and the different teams, right? Like Megyn Kelly has a team, Gretchen has a team, and getting to see how they interact, how the newsroom functions. I thought all that stuff was really, really good too, because it kind of puts you into that real life situation where it's like, it feels like you're right there and you're understanding the culture and everything, because it's not just Ailes, as we've come to learn with the Me Too movement. After Ailes, it was a slew of dominoes that came after, and this was not just one or two people sexually harassing women in a position of power. It was a culture that was inherent, and there are small things in the movie that just kind of hint at that, especially at the beginning, the way you see some men walk by and interact with the women, or the things that are said to them. And I was talking to my girlfriend, and like she said, just watching some of these moments, just like I was never outright sexually harassed at any point in places that I worked, but some of those things that happen that are these little tiny, like, oh, nobody thinks about it. And watching that in those moments, like, brought her back to those places and made her skin crawl, like, because it was a cultural thing that exists everywhere and still exists out there. Don't think that this stuff is just going away. This is, stuff that continually has to be brought to the forefront. And I think Bombshell does a really good job of telling its story and giving really good performances. So for me, thoroughly enjoyed Bombshell. Absolutely fantastic performances. And once again, like I said, the success of Todd Phillips, I'd love to see, Jay Roach has kind of not been around too much lately, but he can dive in to stuff that's more than comedy, and having that comedy background can help when you tackle some of these dramatic things. And I think he does a wonderful job. So all around, Bombshell, boom, is a win for the old Seaman. So there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on Bombshell. Now I want to know what you're thinking. Like I said, this is a very timely piece. This is something that only happened a couple years ago. So, as someone who lived out this, and saw these things take place a few years ago, to watch it in this movie, what was working, what wasn't working? Did you think it told the story well? Did it give you more detail than you knew? What were things that you liked? Who was working on the screen? What'd you think of Theron and Kidman and Robbie, Lithgow? Anything going on, liking or not liking Bombshell, goes down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman in 2020, only way to do that, man, come join the Cinema Sit Down Squad. Jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell. You'll get alerts every time I make a new video. For the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, I'm the Seaman. I'm signing off. Peace. Well, you guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down Squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.